Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Nashville Predators Throwback 2000 franchise mode here in NHL 24. So in last episode, we had the draft and re-sign stage, and it's going to be a very exciting season, I think, ahead, because obviously the youth movement is pretty much full in effect, as we should have a lot of guys jumping to our NHL team next season. And obviously we have a lot of good young players already on our team, like Spezza, Marita, etc. So very excited to see what our team is able to do in the upcoming years. Hopefully we can get a Stanley Cup in the series before the end of NHL 24, because obviously we only have like a month left of NHL 24 before NHL 25 comes out, which is pretty damn insane. So very excited for that, but let's see what we got in terms of our lineup at the moment, so we could kind of know what we need in terms of free agents before we actually start the season, because I don't know if we're going to go for any huge names, obviously, but obviously it would be nice to fill in any of our spots that we don't need. Like Walker LaCosta should probably be a fourth liner at this point, I would assume. He's probably going to be very close to it if he's not. So hypothetically, I'd say these four guys would be our centers. If for some reason LaCosta is not ready, obviously Jay McClement could be our centers. So I think we're probably good in terms of players down the middle. In terms of left wingers, we probably have enough, to be honest, to Hartnell, Marita, Nagy, and Kopecky. We also do have Hakkarainen, who is pretty close, but he'll be in the AHL. Gustafsson should be in the AHL, same with Travis Moen. Travis Moen actually could be used as an NHL depth option, potentially, just because he does have only bottom six potential, so it'd probably be better for him to be in the NHL at some point. And then in terms of our right wingers, we have Van Allen and Svato, so we don't have a lot of right wingers, so maybe we'll find a couple guys that could play on the right side that are a little bit younger just to throw into our roster for the start of the season. But in terms of defensemen, we have probably enough in a sense, with Brooks Orpik being that 7th D like I was mentioning before, because Trevor Daley, Corzini, Weber, Suter, Jacques, and then likely Brent Seabrook will all be in the lineup, which means, yeah, probably Orpik will be a depth defenseman. He is very close to being a UFA already, which is also kind of insane. So I don't know how long-term Brooks Orpik will be with this team, but I think he should be with us for at least a few more years. And then in terms of our goaltending, we have Sedin, and we probably do need a nice little backup, just because I don't think Jimmy Howard's going to be fully ready yet. So we'd probably run like Howard and Versteeg in the AHL, and then we could find a backup for Sedin. So not too bad, I think. And I don't know if we really need too much. So yeah, I think if we bring in maybe a couple right wingers, that might be the play. However, we could use Pavelski as a right winger if we really want to, but I don't know if I will do that. I don't think I will. Some of these left wingers can play on the right side, like Marita would be playing on the right side probably. So technically, maybe we only need one right winger, and then I think we should have enough. Like, we're not going to try and sign too much in this offseason. We're probably obviously just going to run with a lot of the younger guys on this team, because the average age of this team is definitely really young. It's kind of similar to my Winnipeg Jets series when we were winning all those Stanley Cups. We had a really young team. The oldest player right now is Ladislav Nagy, who's 27. And then there's also David Legwand, who's a pending UFA at the end of the season, who's only 25. But we do have a nice little young roster for the most part, which is pretty exciting. So anyways, before we get into free agency and starting up the season, let's get in your guys' comments and see what you guys have to say about last episode. And then we'll get into signing a couple players in free agency. We'll see what the AI signed as well, because that'll be exciting. And obviously we'll start up the 06-07 season. So the first comment is from IDK, what my handle should be, 55. That's kind of an interesting handle. Who says, I love your videos. Maybe for one of your throwback rosters when NHL 25 comes out, you can make a 2011-12 or 2013-14 throwback roster. And I might at some point do some of those years. Right now the plan is to do 2009-10 as my first roster build. However, I do have interest in doing some older roster builds, like, you know how I did 1979-80. It would be interesting to make one maybe where, like, you have guys like Yzerman in the draft, Mario Lemieux. So I'm thinking of maybe at some point going back to the 80s again. I'm not 100% sure with that. There's also like the possibility we could go back to the early 90s again, like 1990 or 1989-90, something like that. That would be interesting. So I do have a lot of years, obviously, I could still do, but obviously most of the ones from the 2000s I've already done. So it'll be interesting to see what we end up doing over the next few years in terms of roster builds. But definitely at some point, more of the 2010s will get done. In the last and final comments from Sound Otaku says, getting a backup goalie with at least an 80 overall rating would be prudent in case Sedin gets hurt. You could probably get Brust for a late round pick or two, so you wouldn't have to give up that much. Rene Bourque as a fourth line option would be good. I don't think you should chase too many old players in this as this season. Wait, I don't think you should chase too many older players, as the season should be a start of the youth movement. Keep your head coach for the season, but replace him if you miss the playoffs again. So he's saying to bring in Rene Bourque and also to bring in that goaltender, which I believe was on the Tampa Bay Lightning. So we're going to go look into that as well via trade, and that way we could address our backup role, because it would be nice to have a good backup goalie just in case, like he was saying, if Sedin gets hurt. So let's go to find trade and see what Tampa's wanting for that 81 overall backup goalie. I think it was on Tampa, at least if I remember right. Brust is his name. Yeah, there he is. He's on the block probably because Cam Ward and Ray Emery are the future of this team. There's also Olaf Kolzig. Like, they actually kind of have a little bit of a logjam in net. Steve Shields, too. I don't know why. They have literally 5 NHL-ready goalies, but they do. If I was them, I would probably trade away Kolzig and Shields and then maybe hold on to Brust, but then again, you have Emery and Ward, so you don't really need them too much. Kind of makes sense that they'd move on from Brust, but Kolzig and Shields being there is kind of weird. They do want to trade away Shields too, so at least they're trying to make up some room so that way Cam Ward is actually able to play. So what is it going to cost for Brust? Svatos and Kopecky, I can't do that. 5th rounder and Kopecky can't do that. Pavelski straight up can't do that. So we're going to have to go make a trade of our own instead. I can't give up any of my roster players. I could give up Kopecky. But I don't think I really want to either, because that would have to mean signing another player to replace him. So we are going to try and work out a deal on our own with Tampa instead. Do they want any of our draft picks, out of curiosity? They do want some later round picks, alright. So if we give them like a 5th round pick, and then we also give them maybe... we could give them like a 5th and a 7th probably, and that could easily get it done. Yeah, I think a 5th and a 7th should get it done. If I have to, I could move this 7th to a 6th. Or move this 5th to a 4th, whatever. But I think this is a good little deal. It's a younger goaltender as a backup option. He has not gotten a chance to play in the NHL yet at the moment. He has been a great AHL goalie, but all AHL goalies in this have been really good just because of the low scoring. So I don't know necessarily how it will translate to the NHL, but he's looking pretty balanced and decent as a goaltender. The only thing is the fact that he's got very low poise, but he doesn't have the experience. It will go up with some NHL experience probably. And he was actually originally drafted by the Islanders, which is interesting. So I guess he was dealt to Tampa, and then they just eventually just held on to him for a little bit, but now they want to move on from him. So will Brust join the Preds for a 5th and a 7th? Yes, he will. All right, so there we go. We got ourselves our backup goalie for Sedin, which is nice. Obviously, we could hold on to that guy until Howard is ready to go, which it might be a year or two. So very happy with that trade. That's a nice little move for our team. And in terms of free agency, we are going to bring in Rene Bourque for sure. I don't really know if there's anybody else I would bring in terms of our forward group, because we don't really need too much. I believe Rene Bourque's a right winger too, and we do need right wingers. Right? Where was he, a left winger? I always forget if he's a right or a left winger. He might have been a left winger. It's hard to remember. Yeah, he was a left winger. But he does play the right side too, so that actually makes him very useful. Because I do like guys that could play on both sides. That way you can kind of flip them around in the lineup a bit. So we'll do the 1-year deal, and let's just give him more money than he's asking for, just because, who knows, another AI team could come in and be like, yo, I want this dude. So we'll try and get Rene Bourque. And I think that's probably all we would sign, because if we sign Rene Bourque, our forward group goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Actually, not 10. 10 with LaCosta, 11, 12 with Moen. We could probably use one more depth forward just in case. Just in case, because LaCosta should be jumping up, my guess, but I want to just sign a depth forward in case, like Travis Moen. So we'll try and find ourselves another kind of grindy depth option or something, or a defensive depth option that could play center. That's probably what I'm going to be looking for, is this other option. And he has to be relatively young. Somebody like Milan Kraft could probably work, but at the same time, he might be listed as a 4th liner for next season. He's actually pretty good at the face-off dot. How has he been in terms of offense? 20-something points, which isn't that bad. Yeah, he's definitely not the most offensive player, but he's okay at the faceoff dot. His takeaway numbers aren't the best, but aren't the worst either. Not super aggressive. How's he been in terms of playoff numbers? Not very good in the playoffs either. Yeah, he definitely doesn't bring a lot of offense, and then his plus minus has been pretty bad the last few years. So yeah, Minecraft could be interesting, but I want to see if there's any other options out there that are younger. Mike Comrie. Oh yeah, we did mention about Mike Comrie. He actually could be interesting. He hasn't been super good at the NHL level, but he hasn't gotten a full season in yet. After he was dealt to the Sharks, he put up 9 points in 22 games, which means he was on his best pace of his career so far. Had 3 points in 12 playoff games. Yeah, he's not really the best player in the world, but he would be a solid depth option. Like if we got a top 6 player injured, Comrie could come in and put up maybe a good amount of points. So let's try and go for Mike Comrie, even though the Edmonton Oilers are also interested in bringing him back. So we'll try a 1-year deal and see if Comrie will also join us, if he's a roster player or a depth forward for this team, just because we want younger players on this team. We don't want guys that are super old. So let's see if those guys accept those contracts, and then we should be pretty much ready to go to see what else the AI decides to do this offseason. Like, I'm very excited to see where players sign and where players get dealt to in this offseason. So will those guys join the Preds? Rene Bourque will. Let's go, Rene. And Parker Winnick gets his RFA contract. Mike Comrie also has joined us, which is nice. I think that means we just have one RFA left, and that is Trevor Daley. I don't know how long-term Trevor Daley is in the picture of this defensive core. Trying to think logically here. Probably long-term in a sense, just because Brooks Orpik isn't the guy. And then in the system, we do have Giordano, but he's not really panning out as I was hoping for. There is also some other low leads, so I could give Trevor Daley multiple years probably at this point. You know what? I'm going to give him what he's asking for. I think he's a good top 4 defenseman for now. If we need to flip him, we could flip him. There's no problem with that. So let's just give him what he wants. Since there's no cap space, I don't really care too much if we're maybe overpaying, which I don't think we are. But still, he should easily accept that. Let's see. Come on, Trevor. There we go. He's on board for 4 more years. Let's sim to the end of July and see what happens in terms of free agent signings. Like, I'm very excited, as always, just to see what kind of ridiculous moves happen in the offseason. Like, this is always probably my favorite part about these throwback franchise modes, is just seeing players change teams and all that. Just to see if there was interesting realities or all that. LA wants Jay McClement, but they would give me only a 7th round pick. Screw you. I don't want to give up Jay McClement for a 7th rounder only. Because Jay McClement might be a roster player next season, which is kind of interesting. All right, in terms of off-season stuff, let's first look at trades. There was some off-season trades, so Maxim Galanov gets dealt to Chicago from Ottawa. All right, Marty Turco got dealt from the Rangers to the Atlanta Thrashers. That's kind of sucks for Marty going to a bad team like Atlanta. Dallas and Toronto swapped some picks. Eric Perrin actually got dealt to Dallas as part of that deal. Vancouver has acquired Darian Hatcher in a 5th rounder from the Rangers, so Vancouver getting a good defenseman, which makes sense because they do need a lot of defensive help. They have a lot of good offensive players, but obviously that defense and goaltending has been holding them back for a number of years at this point. Dan McGillis got dealt to the Sharks. I'm pretty sure he actually played in San Jose for a little bit near the end of his career, but I honestly don't remember. I think it was briefly. But Brendan Bell going to the Rangers, which I think he was also there at one point. In terms of signings, anything interesting? Habs signing a couple of goalies, Markkanen and Rolison. That's kind of interesting because obviously both those goalies were the Edmonton Oilers goaltending in 2006. You also had Ty Conklin there as well, but that's actually kind of funny. Was Markkanen there in 06? I think Markkanen was there in 06. Yeah, I'm almost certain. But that's kind of funny. Mika Nornan signs in Toronto. Oh my goodness. Another one, Mika Nornan signs in Toronto, which I think, if I remember right, Mika Nornan's only NHL goal as a goalie was against the Toronto Maple Leafs, so that's a little fun tidbit if that is true. What else we got here? Matt Carkner in Florida. Okay, it's a lot of no-names. If you guys see anything I missed, though, let me know. Matthew Guerin going to the Oilers, which he actually played for, so that's cool. What else we got here? Steve Stales in New Jersey. All right. Just looking for anything crazy. Devereaux going to Detroit. I don't think he started in Detroit in this. I feel like he started in Edmonton, so he actually goes to a team he played for. What else we got here? Looking for the craziest examples here. So Jay Pandolfo, our former guy, went to Ottawa, though. Nat Domicelli goes to Detroit as well. What else we got here? Wade Belak signed in Chicago. Not too bad. Not too bad. A lot of no names in this free agent class. Pascal Leclerc looks like he returned to Ottawa because I think he was already in Ottawa at the start of, well, not at the start of the series, but in this series he got drafted by Ottawa, if I remember right. What else we got here? Not a lot of big names in free agency. LA does sign Rick DiPietro to a one-year contract, so Rick DiPietro moving to California, so that way he could get injured and just suntan on the beach for the rest of his career. David Steckel going to Pittsburgh, not a big name really. Chris Kunitz going to Montreal. That's kind of weird. Dan Ellison, Rangers. Yeah, there's not really any huge names signing places, but I'm looking for like Steve Yzerman. That's the one I want to see. And then a couple of the other big names. Barrett Jackman going to Anaheim. Mike Fisher to Florida. Martin Havlat to Carolina. Jeff Sanderson signs in Florida. He was one of the bigger name free agents this year. Chris Draper to Pittsburgh. That's kind of weird considering he was obviously on the Detroit Red Wings when they won the Cup against Pittsburgh. Carl Akunik, a 5-year deal in Anaheim. Damn. That's pretty crazy. Nick Cronwall signs with the Atlanta Thrashers. That's an interesting one, if I do say so myself. So Darian Hatcher actually signed with the Rangers and then got immediately dealt to the Vancouver Canucks. So that's kind of interesting. So I thought he was on the Flyers at the beginning of this, so that's kind of interesting. Well, not at the beginning of this, but at one point he was with the Flyers. Manny Legacy signs in St. Louis, which he actually played for, and Chris Mason signed there too. That's actually kind of sick because both those guys I'm pretty sure were a 1-2 punch in St. Louis at the same time. So that's actually kind of cool. I like it when that type of thing happens. It's really nice to see realism. Brzgalov signs a 6-year deal with the Carolina Hurricanes. Wow. Ew, Steve Yzerman signed in Toronto for 2 years. So Toronto keeps on adding old random veterans like they did in real life, like Brian Leetch in real life. That's kind of funny. But Yzerman in Toronto is just, that's a no. Mark Recchi signs in Boston on a 2-year deal. Well, in real life, Mark Recchi ended his career in Boston and won a Stanley Cup, so maybe he's going to do that in this universe as well. Travis Green signing in Anaheim right around the time that he actually played for the Ducks when they won the Cup in 2007. Because I think he played with them and then got dealt to Toronto or something like that. Chichu going back to the Sharks on a 3-year contract. Anything else? Soleil in Boston. Rob Blake in Buffalo, so that's where Rob Blake ended up as Buffalo. Okay. Chris Phillips goes back to Atlanta on a 6-year deal. Anything else? Vishnofsky gets a 7-year deal from the Flyers. That's a nice little addition for the Philadelphia Flyers, but 7 years. Wow. Zubov signs with the Islanders. Okay. Danny Briere gets a 5-year deal with the Philadelphia Flyers. I'd love to see that too. So he skips his time in Buffalo, I guess, because I think he started on Arizona in this. Steve Sullivan going back to the Devils where he actually played. Anything else? Jalen Regeer's generated. Rene Bourque, obviously Czars. Mike Sillinger going to the Sharks. Roman Turek going back to St. Louis again. Leopold goes to Colorado, which he actually played for right around this time. Robin Regeer going to the Edmonton Oilers. Man, Flames fans would not like to see that. 6-year deal for Robin. Anything else interesting? Tom Pody, Robert Lang to San Jose, and that's it. All right. So some interesting additions for some of those teams. And I'm excited for the 06-07 season. Let's get simulating to that and get our lineup ready to go. I might just actually remove stuff from my trading block because or else I'm going to get notifications that I don't really want. So let's just go ahead and take the time to get rid of this. So that way we're not getting any trade offers this off season. Because it's going to readjust at the start of the season anyways. But yeah, this team should be pretty decent. I mean, I don't know if we're going to be a playoff team because our defense obviously is a lot of guys that were just in the AHL last season. But it should be an interesting team that actually still has some promise for the future. Like, I don't know if we're going to make the playoffs with this roster this season. I think it depends on, like, Merida and all that. But I think, obviously, there's going to be definitely some interesting things that happen this year that definitely show the promise that this team should be able to win a cup before the series ends. So excited for that. Because Spezza has definitely been a great setup guy for Merida, so I'm expecting a lot of stuff from him. Also, getting rid of Steve Sullivan and bringing Van Allen into the top 6 will be an interesting thing for us this season as well. All right, in terms of roster moves, anybody that needs to be called up, let's actually go by each position. So we got Sedin and Brust as our 1-2 punch. Looks good. AHL, it's going to be Howard and Versteeg. Looks good too. Howard is still a minor league starting goalie, so he's not even ready yet, but he will be ready probably next season or in the middle of this season. Defensively, Giordano's not ready yet, but he's definitely getting close. Yeah, we already got our defensive core. This is what it looks like right now. Daly, Weber, Seabrook, Corazzini, Suter, Jacques, and Orpik. All right. And everybody's pretty much in a good role, too. Nobody's listed as a top 2, so I like that. In terms of right wingers, Parker Winnick as a 76. He could potentially be up here, but I'm not sure if he's ready yet. How old is he at this point? 22. He's not ready yet, but he is definitely getting close. And Art Meyer's also getting close as a low lead too. So we do have some guys in the system that should make it within the next year, which is nice. Left wingers, we got Hartnell, Merida, Nagy, Kopecky, and Bork. In the system, Kostitsyn's pretty close. We could call up Travis Moen if we have the roster space, but right now I don't know if we do. So I'll definitely have to take a look and see if there's anybody to send down. And in terms of setters, we got Spezza, Legwan, Comrie, Pavelski, Lacosta. Yeah, Lacosta's pretty much ready. And in McClement's listed as a minor scoring forward. So he would be like a depth option, but I'm okay with using him as a depth forward. Yeah, I think I'll use him as a depth forward. So who is scratched at the moment that shouldn't be? I got to get Lacoste in the lineup, it looks like, for sure. Yeah, Lacoste and Jacques need to be in the lineup for sure. All right, so those are the only players that need to be in. So, how good is Walker Lacoste's faceoffs? I know he's a centerman, but how good is his faceoffs? 76, that's actually not too bad. So, we'll get him right into that center spot on that 4th line. And we'll get Jacques in on the defensive side of things, which means we will be taking Brooks Orpik out of the lineup and getting in Mr. Jacques here. And we'll readjust this in a second. But I do need to call up one more depth forward, which I think we already know it's going to be Travis Moen, just to give us that grit that Travis Moen brings, because I don't want Kostitsyn being scratched yet. But Kostitsyn's definitely close to being any NHL ready. So in terms of our lineup itself, Hartnell, Spezza, Merida looks great. Van Allen, Legwan, Nagy looks good. And then in terms of our 3rd line, Kopecky, Pavelski, and Bork, I probably would prefer Mike Comrie to be higher up in the lineup because he's more offensive. So we'll move him up. Kopecky could be on that 4th line with Lacosta. Svatos probably should be higher than Bork, maybe. Maybe. Let's see. Yeah, maybe, just because he's a sniper. Let's try that for the time being. That looks decent. Defensively, this should be interesting too. We go with Daly and Seabrook, maybe? Or Daly and Weber. And then we would go Corazzini and Suter. Actually, Jacques and Corazzini. And then we have Seabrook and Suter. Wow, okay. I like that. I like the chemistry on this defense. I like that a lot, actually. Yeah, that looks good. And then goalies, Sedin and Brust, Scratch, McClement, Orpik, and Moen. Looks good. Looks good. I like that. In terms of special teams, do we need to change anything about this? Merida on the first power play is good. I probably want to take Svantos off the power play and put Shea Weber on this one unit. Actually, I should put Corazzini first. Shea Weber could run the second unit just to make it a little bit easier. But there is Seabrook and Suter already. I'd prefer probably to put Shea Weber on the power play over Seabrook. So, kind of a tough choice with that. But that looks good. Yeah, I think this team is going to be interesting this season. I definitely think it's going to be a fun year. Fun year ahead, as long as the coach actually works well with this team, which honestly I have no idea how good he works. So go Suter over there. We'll put Weber on there instead of Seabrook. Even though Seabrook's a good shooter, I just like Shea Weber better just because he's got potential. So he doesn't have any X factors at the moment, which is kind of weird. And goalies look good. Let me take a look at the penalty kill. Suter, Seabrook, Jacques, Weber, Corazzini, Daly. I like it. I like it. I think we're pretty much ready to go. Let's just check the AHL briefly. Nobody scratched. Okay, that's good. Nicholas should definitely be higher than Scott. Ilakis should be higher than Scott too. Down the middle, Brody is a low elite, but he's not a center. So he probably should be higher in the lineup hypothetically as well. This Jacobson's guy is just the one that it signed me, I think, right? Yeah. Brody could be higher than Rippin as well, and Bull could stay as the top liner. Winnick should be higher than Hakkarainen, maybe? Actually, Hakkarainen's only 17, but let's go with Hakkarainen top line just for fun. A lot of good right wingers down there. Defense, looks like a minus on this pairing. Can we get rid of that? Yes, we can. Nice. Looks good. Looks good. Okay, I think we are pretty much ready to start simulating the 06-07 season. We're going to simulate not too much of it. We're only going to simulate probably, I'd say, till like halfway point of the season, just so we can get a good chunk done. But I am excited to see what this team is capable of, because we should be pretty okay as long as this coach has a good team fit. And like Sandro Talco said, if he doesn't get us to the playoffs, we could always fire him. 66%. Is there anybody better out there than a 66? That would be better maybe for this team. Not really. Not really, actually. There is a 67, but he is listed as an NHL associate. We could bring him in as a goalie coach, potentially, but I don't think I would do that. Let's just try and find ourselves a goaltending coach, because we always could use a goalie coach. So let's bring in this Richard Zilichki guy as our NHL goalie coach. That way we have somebody in that spot. So we'll bring him in, and I think we're pretty much ready to get to the preseason and also see how this team does. I'm expecting a big year from some of our younger guys, like Van Allen should break out this year. Zilichki accepts. Just because Van Allen should be in a better role with Sullivan being gone from this team. That's my guess. He is getting, obviously, second-line ice time and second-line power play time. But he should be in a spot that he could succeed. He has some okay line mates. And he's coming off 25 goals last year. So I'm expecting maybe 30 this year from him. Might be a high expectation. Might be a low expectation. Maybe he hits 40 even. But he has been getting better every year in terms of points. His playoff numbers haven't been good so far. But obviously he's only got the 1 year playoff success. So expecting some big things from him this year. And then Steven Marita has been a consistent 30-goal guy. I'm hoping that he could break 40 this year as well. Maybe get closer to 50. But honestly depends, I guess, on guys like Spezza and Hartnell if they're also going to play well or not. So let's get into this and see how our team does this season. See if we could get some players to break out a little bit. Because if we miss the playoffs, it's not the end of the world. But if we at least get some good production from the younger guys, that's what I'm caring about the most. And then hopefully next year is a big year for this team. So 1-1-1 in the preseason in our 3 games. Spezza had 6 points in those 3 games, so maybe that's a sign of things to come for that top line. Because like I said, top line should be carrying most of our offense. Second line should be able to bring some offense. The bottom 6 probably won't have as much, unless Pavelski gets going, I guess, and stuff like that. But let's see. So we have 3 games against the Blues in the first month of the season, which is kind of weird, and 4 against the Oilers. Kind of weird. I don't know why it's always structured so weirdly when you do custom league, but it is what it is. Let's go to November the 1st and see how we do in our first month with this young team. Obviously, the defensive core is probably our weakest point, but it's got a lot of good young talent in it and a lot of potential. And we are off to a little bit of a rough start, but we do bounce back with 4 straight wins after that rough start. Make it 6 straight wins, all right. So it was a little bit of a rough start for the team, but after that game against the Oilers, we went on a nice little stretch. We beat them 3 times within a span of under 2 weeks, so that's pretty impressive. 7-4, 1-1. That has us currently in second place in the division with almost the least amount of games played. Not bad. Who's leading us in points after those first few months of games? Marita's got 14 points already. 6 goals only in 13 games, so he's still on pace for maybe like a 40-goal season, but he's over a point per game, so this still could be a big year for him. He's maybe going to become more of a hybrid production guy than a goal-scoring machine, but I don't mind that. He's also got the great takeaways and all that stuff, so he should be a good PK guy as well. Let's go to the end of November and see if this team keeps on rolling, because we're on a good winning streak as of late. There's another win, another one, and then we lose to Montreal. Of course, we had to lose a couple in a row after that, but The team seems to be doing pretty well. Even with all these young defensemen in their rookie season, we are winning games. So 17-6, 2-2. All right. This team's actually kind of surprising me more than expected. Like, I expected us to be okay this season, but I didn't expect us to get off to this good of a start. Wow. 31 points. David Legwand's leading the team even though he's over point per game. Like, what is this? I know he's a pending free agent, so maybe he's trying to get paid, but David Legwand's off to a good start. Maybe we should hold on to David Legwand long term. You know, I'm already going to give David Legwand an extension here just because I want to bank on the fact if he's going to have a breakout year this year, I don't want to be overpaying him in the offseason. Let's just give him a 3x3. And if need be, we could always trade him away if he falls off a cliff next year. But 3x3 is pretty good. Holy shit. Speaking of interesting results, the Flames are terrible. They have gone down in Flames. 7-21 in their first 28 games. That's actually kind of insane. Are they the worst team in the league? They are. Wow. So the Calgary Flames are tragic. We are doing way better than expected. 8-0-1 or 8-0-1-1 in our last 10 games. All right. Well, I think this team might be a playoff team unless we have a month all of a sudden where we just lose every game, but we are cooking and the Flames not so much. So let's go another month of action. Like I said, we'll go to the halfway point of the season and then see what has been going on with this team that's been good and what hasn't been. But it looks like it's been good so far. Ryan Suter's been injured. That's not great. He's in his rookie season. We'll get Brooks Orpik in to replace him, as Legwand already accepts that 3x3 extension, which is pretty nice considering he's over point per game right now at this point in time. Yeah, we're still doing actually pretty good. We are losing some games here and there, but this team is still able to have some good offensive games. Van Allen has jumped to an 87, so he must be playing good this year too, which is very exciting. I'll get Suter back in. Suter's actually an 83, or he jumped to an 83, and he's listed as a top 4. That means I might have to put Jacques down to the top 6. I thought the chemistry was better before. That's weird. Something's changed. We will get Jacques down to the top 6, I guess, just because I don't want Suter to complain. But he is getting power play time, so he should be hypothetically okay. And let's keep it like that. Let's keep it like that. Yeah, we're still doing good. We are still doing really well. Like, we're still getting points via tie as well. And not losing too much in regulation. Why does this happen all the time? Marcus Sedin has been injured with an injured arm. Saturn Taco literally said in his comment that would be prudent in case Sedin gets hurt. Well, Sedin gets hurt, which means Brust is what we're going to have to rely on until Sedin comes back again. I don't know why he's getting injured so much. We could call up Jimmy Howard and send him down through waivers afterwards, and he doesn't even get claimed at all. So Jimmy Howard will get his chance to play in the NHL a little bit this season, but obviously he's not full-time in the NHL yet. But this injury to Sedin will definitely help things for him. How has Brust been as a backup? A 929. Wow. So Brust has been elite as a backup right now this season, but I expect his numbers to go down quite a bit as a starter. But he's been very good so far, which is very exciting. So Versteeg will get to play with some generated guy that gets signed, Bob Warner. So there you go. That's what the AHL team is going to run for a little bit while Sedin is hurt. And there's another win. How much games have we played now at this point? Okay, we're right at halfway point. Actually, we just passed halfway point. Because I'm not used to passing the halfway point before January. But we have played 42 games. We are 26-9-3-4. Really good start to the year for this young team. And I think we should be a playoff team at this rate of time. Looks like Marita should hit 40 goals as well based on his results so far. He's up to 47 points already. Could be a 90-plus point year for the young Karate Kid. Let's take a look at the standings so far at this point. So in terms of the entire league at the moment, we are the second best team in the NHL. We have only 3 more points than the Ducks. The Carolina Hurricanes, however, are on a tear. They are the best team in the NHL at the moment with 62 points, already 30 wins as well. The worst team in the league at the moment is the New York Rangers. Wow. Yikes. They're only on 10 wins at the moment. But in terms of statistics, we are the 4th best offensive team in the NHL. We are the 2nd best defensive team in the NHL. Our power play is also top 5. It's number 5. And our penalty kill is number 1. We literally have good stats in every single area halfway through the year, which is awesome. You just got to keep it up like that. Let's take a look at some player stats and see who's been doing what for this team so far. So, in terms of our centers, Legwand is just under point per game. Got a new extension in place, which I don't mind. Like I said, if we need to trade him, we can. He's been really good this year, though. Spets on 37 points. He's also been good. I'm kind of surprised that Legwand's overperforming, though. Like, Legwand's got 13 points on the power play. Spezza only has 4. I thought Spezza was on the first unit. I got to double check that now, though. Comrie's been very good as a free agent signing, too. 32 points in 42 games. Also a shit ton of power play points. Love to see it. Pavelski on 18 points. He's been good. Also +6. So that's probably his best season in terms of offense and defensive play. Lacoste on 15 points +12. He's off to a great start to his career. Like, that's good defensive stats. Let's take a look at his takeaway numbers out of curiosity. Pretty similar to that. He's not too bad. His face-off numbers could be definitely a lot better, but he's in his first season, so I don't blame him. But in general, centers have been good. Left wing side of things, Marita's on the 47 points and 24 goals. He's definitely going to have a career year this year, I think, at this point. Because his most goals before this was 39. He's on pace for probably like 46, 47, my guess. I don't know the math, basically, but yeah, he's been good. He has been good. Hartnell's on 39 points. He's also been solid. Nagy on 36 points. He's been good. Rene Bourque, who we brought in, 15 points and a +11. A couple of those free agent signings have been really good. Like Comrie and Bourque have definitely been positives on this team. Kopeski's been good as well this year, +10. Has a 79 overall, so he jumped up a little bit in terms of overall too. Right wing side of things, Van Allen's on 38 points and already has 24 goals, which is almost a career high already halfway through the year. So the emergence of Van Allen has been pretty big this year, and that's exactly what I was kind of hoping for from the kid. So very excited to see what he could do going forward. Svato's on 15 points, -6. So in terms of our forwards, Svatos is probably one of the worst of the bunch. Yeah, he doesn't bring a ton of offense, and he's also the worst in terms of +/-. So Svatos might be a liability, but we'll hold on to him probably for now. Defensively, Weber on 18 points +16. Not a ton of offense, but still better than nothing. Suter also on 18 points +18. Seabrook 14 points +16. Corzini 13 points +5. Corzini's not really doing as much offense as I was expecting this year after his rookie year. He has no goals halfway through the season too, which is kind of insane. But he has been good. Daly on 9 points +20. Jacques on 7 points +2. And Orpik has nothing through 7 games. But all of our defenders have been good in terms of +/-. It looks like Corzini and Jacques are the one guys that are out there for a little bit too much goals against, but that's okay. Somebody has to take the fault. And in our goaltenders, Sedin has a 919 through 33 games before he got injured. And then you have Brust on that 929, who's got 4 shutouts as a backup. Wow. So Marshall Brust has looked pretty good. Didn't even play a preseason game for us. He did play a preseason game for Tampa. I didn't even realize 2 of them. And he was really good during them. So who knows? Maybe Marshall Brust is a really good goalie. And maybe he'll be good in the playoffs too if Sedin isn't good. But so far, Sedin is having the best year of his career and probably could win a Vezina if it wasn't for this injury. I don't remember when it says he's going to be back, but he's been great. So there's all that. Let's actually take a look at league leaders as well for fun too, just to see who's leading the league at the moment. Paul Correa in points, Joe Thornton, Brian Rolston, that's going to be interesting. Appleby from Montreal, Solani, Samsonov. Best goal scorer so far, Correa and Yashin are both over 30 goals already. Best defenseman in terms of points so far, Tverdovsky has 64 points halfway through the year. Is he leading the entire NHL in points? He is. What? Is Oleg Tverdovsky going to win an Art Ross? Bruh, how does he lead the league in points? I don't know how I made Oleg Tverdovsky this good of an offensive defenseman, but I did. I know that he was a good offensive defenseman. He was a high pick in real life. But obviously he was not this good. God damn. He's got 500 points in 613 career games, but this year He's on pace to be a 100-point defenseman. Wow. So shout out to Oleg Tverdovsky. He is getting paid like a top 2 defenseman too, so maybe he's just living up to the money. That's insane. That is crazy. Like, look at the difference between 1 and 2 as well. Almost 30 points separating him and Zelichki. Like, Tverdovsky almost should have the Norris locked up halfway through the year. Wow. In terms of goalies, Lundqvist leads in wins. Shouts, it's Marshall Brust as our backup, okay? Him tied with Ryan Miller as a starter. Best save percentage by a starter is Ryan Miller. Ilya Brzgalov as well. Looks like goalies are doing well this year, which is kind of cool. So I like to see that. Yeah, alright. Any goalie goals halfway through the year? No. Most assists so far? Sven Karlsson and Trevor Kidd. Best rookie so far this year is Heikkinen in Chicago. Vishnowski, Moroza, Shea Weber's up there, Ryan Suter. Nice. Alright. Final few things. Let's take a look at the trading block just to see if there's anything out there for potential trades this season. But I don't think we really want to make any trades. Just because we're a young team, there's not really much I would move out on this roster anyways. Like, if we were to move out somebody that's a liability, Svatos, but at the same time, it's not really... I don't know if it's needed to upgrade Svatos or not. Like, we could turn him into a defensive forward instead of having a sniper on that bottom 6. That could be a play, but I don't think it's a necessary thing. Like, Brett McLean as a 4th-line option might be a better thing. He is more of a defensive forward. He's good defensively, good face-off stats. We could easily bring in somebody like that for the 4th line rather than running Svatos. But at the same time, we don't really need to make trades too. So I'll let you guys decide if there's anything you think is interesting to bring in. But I think right now, maybe staying the course is probably the best action for our team. There's a medium elite that... When was he just drafted? 13th overall, Rick Kapusta. That guy's on the block. That's kind of an interesting prospect, but we aren't going to necessarily want to trade for prospects because we're kind of in between of like being a good team and also being a team that misses the playoffs. But we are playing really good this year, so I think playoffs are definitely a thing that's going to happen this year. But also, I don't know how long-term we'd be a good playoff team. Like, are we built up enough to be a team that can make the playoffs almost every year remaining of the series? I don't know, but I think our defensive core is definitely showing that it's going to be really good once those guys are like fully developed because they're all really young, yet they're all playing great. So, and then the goaltending has been also phenomenal. So I'm very impressed with our defense, especially. I'd say our offense hasn't been scoring the most insane amount of goals in the world, but it's been good, and that's all we need kind of when we have a really good defensive play. So. I don't know how this team's going to do in terms of a postseason setting, because obviously it seems like every year it kind of falls apart a bit, but looks promising. Promising for sure. Let's see. Anything else here? A lot of veterans on the block, so there is options to trade for. Hey, there's another goalie on the block. Wow. Eno Rutu. High starter, that's an 81 as well. Kind of crazy that a lot of teams are just not holding on to those goaltenders, but... kind of interesting. Josh Harding's also already ready to go too. Huh. Alright. Well, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Nashville Predators Throwback 2000 franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the trade deadline. We'll probably simulate the rest of the season in the next episode. The team has been great so far, so I'm expecting more of the same down the second half of the season. If we fall off, it'll probably be because of the fact that we lost Sedin due to injury, but he should be relatively back soon. And he's on a Vezina pace. We have maybe some good defensemen that are on pace to win maybe Rookie of the Year if they pick up the pace a bit offensively. Our offense in general has been solid. Like, there's not really much problems with this team, so I don't know if we're going to make any trades, but if you guys saw anything that I should trade for, let me know, and maybe we could like make our defensive core, or not necessarily defensive core, our bottom 6 a bit more defensively minded rather than offensive. And that way we kind of make ourselves more a playoff team. So this thing down below, and I'll see you guys next time.